Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, no matter where you are in the world. And I'm Dwaine Hartman, and welcome to the webinar. Tonight, I'd like to talk more on time. I'd like to talk more on living beyond time. We're going to need to get used to these sorts of things. As this energy is increasing, it's not a wave. A wave gives you the idea that there's a crest and a fall. And this isn't. This is an increase in energy. I heard a lot of different things this week and the week before. Learning more about what's taking place. We have a lot of assistance at this time. Assisting us in the vibration, being able to handle the vibration as we begin to shift and transform, but change is definitely upon us. And what's important about change being upon us is that we need to get to know ourselves. We get to know who we are as sovereign beings, as gods ourselves. And this is exciting times because as we pull out of the matrix and it starts to dissolve, it dissolves because we're turning our attention and awareness away from it. And this happens with many different things in your life. When you pull your awareness and your attention away from it, it begins to fall away. Just remember that your awareness is the most powerful thing in your own sovereign reality. And each individual person has their own sovereign reality. And what that means is that your reality is run based on you. So, yes, there's been a lot of work done to get people to stay in the box, but we're starting to feel something different, and it's time to wake up. I just wanted to inform you that I have some new links up above. They won't be active until the show is over, and there will be some links below coming up in the next scene where I'm in the chat screen. And those won't be active yet until the show is on replay. So time. And the fact that time and living beyond time, moving into this other aspect of ourselves, this greater aspect of ourselves, this part that has never been born nor will ever die. The operator of, and the witness and the watcher, that's having this experience as Dwaine or as you, right? It's having that experience in the body. And the more that we start to turn our awareness into that aspect of who we are, the freer we become, because all of a sudden you move beyond time. You move beyond your own past. You find that the more that you focus on your past, the more you're grounded in a preordained reality. As you free yourself from your own past, now you can create freely in the present moment. And that's really what we want when we want a healing or we want a therapy of some sort. We want to be able to move beyond into freedom. And with yourself, understanding that this isn't only possible, this is how you run things. I mean, the fact that that people are so focused on past and that this happened and that happened and it's chronological and and all of this, and when we start letting that go, we start coming into an ancient memory of ourselves, which is an ongoing memory, a forever memory. I remember somebody telling me one time that if you take a look at pi 3.14, now we all say 3.14, but really it's 3.14 and numbers into infinity, you see, and by them chopping that down and rounding that up, we lost infinity. The same thing with the golden spire, the golden mean, right? That is 1 point some another, whatever it is, and then infinite numbers, and they rounded that up. When we round things up and we try to make them a block, right? We're really, what are we saying? What's really happening? Why am I saying this or even mentioning it? Is because we want to come into that infinite aspect of ourselves, because in that aspect of that ourselves, we're not afraid anymore. We're not afraid of what you would call death. We're not afraid of that because we're beyond it. We live beyond this paradigm completely. And it's really like Pink Floyd says, in one of the songs, it's the killing of the past. It's moving out of your own past and into the freedom that none of that holds you, not even your opinion of it holds you anymore, because you're beyond it. When we start stepping into this aspect of ourselves, we start connecting more deeply with nature, because all nature lives in that ongoingness. There's somebody that I have been watching lately, and I see that she's actually on the chat screen here, Tall Happy Colors. If you look up her YouTubes, she's living it. She's going out and she's actually living things that you need to check out. Not only juicing and picking the right plants and teaching you about that, but she's also living a vibration, the vibration of timelessness, moving beyond all the things that we have been told that we should pay attention to, and all of the rules that we should live by, and all that. And she's out experiencing that in parks, and she's also very funny too. So, check out her YouTubes too. And thank you for coming. This timelessness, this is an aspect of humanity that we have gotten programmed out of. You see, when you take a look at the people that are native to the land, they didn't have a watch. I mean, they knew by sensing the sun. They got up when they got up, and they sensed the day, they sensed it, and it's a deeper connection to the sun. Now, I know that a lot of you are working, and you have to, but there are weekends and days off where you can go and let go and experience it. That's how I first started, is during the weekends, experiencing that timelessness, that freedom. And once you start that, it's a bit addictive, right? Because it's something that when you go into that space inside, you lose track of all the rules as well, really, and things become very, very, very much softer, because everything that you've been looking for is really there. And it's not just in the timelessness, it's that state of being that's in the timelessness, that's in that aspect. So the more that we just have those moments of inspiration where we go out and we just be by ourselves and wonder what we can do. So much of our mind and time is rehearsing what happened in the past and associating ourselves back into it. And you want to know why we do that is because we want to ground into something. Because really we're free floating. Okay? But we do this kind of thing, humans do this kind of thing to themselves because they want to ground and feel some sort of solidity. But the more that you practice letting go of solidity, the more that you move beyond time, the more that you move beyond aging, you move into the timelessness. There is a set of books that I had read at one time, and it was called the Life and Teachings of the Eastern Masters. And if you can get a hold of that there's 6 books in that. If you can get a hold of that, pick it up, because they're talking about ascension in these books too, and the fact that you can reach such a positive state that you literally ascend. Now, you don't need to be freaked out about that it just happens to you and you don't have a chance to say goodbye or anything. That's what most people think. But it's not that way. What it's like is that you go and you have your choice to come back. What you learn on that journey is how to let go completely and go into another aspect, another dimension. You ascend into another dimension, and then you have your choice then to come back and assemble and come back. And they talk a lot about that, and there's certain people in that book that would surprise you that are ascending and coming back at will. So that's just another aspect of moving into this timelessness, because you're no longer grounded in the rules here. You're moving beyond the rules here. Another great author that I liked was Stuart Wilde, and he talked a lot about the fact of moving beyond TikTok. He called it TikTok, which was this association to time. And when you move beyond TikTok and the struggles and all that has to do with it, you're really floating out of the 3D dimension. He had strong rules about the fact that you don't need to force people at all to do that. That this is this is your own sovereign journey to experience this. I kind of like that aspect of what he was talking about. That you're not forcing other people. The only way that we can ascend is that everyone else has to ascend with us this time. I really don't think that can happen. But I still think that you have every right within yourself to ascend. Now, you may not want to ascend. You just may want to experience higher and higher levels of vibration. You have every right to do that. And it's got nothing to do with your past, although your commitment to your past and what happened can hold you. And so as soon as you rise above that, the fact that nothing can hold you. And that's what the beauty of having some sessions with me is that we get to that very quickly. Not the ascension part, but the part where you let go of the past real quick, and you can float into the present moment where you're free then to create in your future the way you want to create. But just coming out of those confines and stepping into the present moment for the first time and feeling that freedom that you feel, knowing that you're free to create, it's very liberating. It's very, people do happy dances when they feel that. And so And that's part of coming out of time restraints, right? Because nothing holds you. Nothing holds you but what you believe holds you. When you flip these concepts of being held back and realizing it was only ever yourself that held you back, when you start flipping these and coming out of that, you experience, like, again, the unbounded spirit, which is delightfully happy and ready to enjoy life, right? So, Alice said she missed another webinar. No, it's on live. If you're typing in here and seeing it, you're on live. Or if you're on my site, just press the play button, I guess, on there if there's a play button. I've never been to one of my webinars. I've always hosted them. But I think that's how it goes. You have to press the play button or it starts automatically. Maybe some of you can help her with that. So I like to go out in the summertime. I like to go out to the farm. I got a little place that I nestle in there and go out there and listen to the birds in the morning and just disappear into timelessness. And being out there, being away from everything, and just this weekend it happened. I just went into this state of bliss, just natural bliss. It's just an ordinary thing that can happen to each and every one of us anytime. Is when we suspend all of it, and again, this is where, when I'm working with people in removing the critic, they go right into that space. I mean, it's like they don't know the difference until they experience it, and when they experience letting go of the critic and coming into bliss, it's like, whoa, I always knew this was here, but I didn't realize it was, it was really here. And when they step into that and start to experience it, then they can start to meditate and they can start to relax in this state, great levels of joy rising with them. So that's another thing that I do, is help people to remove the critic. And there's a specific way to do that. I don't do it, actually. The goddess within and the God within does it. But within you. And you could imagine what that would be like. To go from something criticizing you all the time to a state of bliss. And I developed that because I ran into so many people that had a tough time with meditation. And before that, I started noticing it when I was working with the figure skaters. And they were sitting there, really hard on themselves. And started developing ways to help them remove the critic. And I realized then it wasn't only for sports, that everybody had it. And that it's a nice thing to let go of, so that you can, be in your own space with the loving voice of source energy. And then the unbounded spirit really comes alive. It's like, what can I do? Right? Rather than, I've got all these things, I could never do this. That's the critic talking. But then you step into the unbounded spirit, and it's like, whoa, I can do what couldn't I do? Right? We also connect really deeply with our passion after the critic is gone, because that's what the critic stops us from. And so it stops us from stepping into that space and being all that you can be, because it's designed to do that. So this all comes back to keeping one grounded in time, grounded in the the blinders, the box. And we're talking about stepping out of the box. We're talking about moving beyond this. I don't know how many people, really, how many people I have ran into through these sessions, through the live events, that have all went to school and either had to really bury a part of themselves, or they weren't seen as measuring up through the school system. And so we have some people that are like lawyers that are coming out, doctors coming out, right, and saying, that's it, I can't do this anymore, I can't live this blinder life. And there's more and more people now coming out to what would be called psychotic, because they're coming out and they're thinking differently, just because they're thinking differently and thinking beyond the box. It's not psychotic, it's they think beyond the box, and they come out and it's like, whoa, I can't live that life anymore where I'm just this limited person. It's not fitting. This has got to do with the energies that are coming. People are popping out, and people need people like you to be able to help them in the transition as well. So, and that's what I do. I help people learn how to do an approach that helps people come out of that, because there's so many people coming now. So many people coming now that want that assistance to be able to go from stuck state into their unbounded spirit. And when we live beyond the box, there's more and more of us, we're beginning to understand that, because it's been years and years that they have, skimmed off just, these people that are outside here and, tried to medicate them and everything else. And skimming them off, there's more of us out here than there is in here. There's more of us that are in here that are at the edge of just going and saying, okay, I'm coming out of the closet because I'm deeply spiritual and I'm not telling anyone, and I got to start telling people that I am. And this is what's changing the planet. It's adding to the energy that's going on here. Is that more and more people are coming out. Yes, you're only seeing on TV the stuff, and that's because that's part of the get you back in here. But if you go around and you start in this sort of area of work, you begin to realize people are coming out everywhere, right? And so the first thing that we want to take a look at in our own spiritual journey is coming back to our passion, what it is that we came in here to do. Because this is one of the reasons why, they kind of deem certain ones of us different, if not all of us, is because, yes, we are, because we have a different frame of reference. Once we come into this unbounded aspect of ourselves, this unbounded aspect of ourselves lives and has lived forever. No beginning, no end. And this unbounded aspect of ourselves has other perspectives. So when you come in here as a child and you feel this perspective that's going on here, a lot of times us as children just go, ugh. You know what I mean? Because it's like, what? But we came in with this idea and concept. And if it hasn't gotten completely beaten out of a person, they get to about the age of 35, maybe younger, and it is happening younger now. You get to about 35 or much younger, where it's like, poof, I am not going to live that way. I'm going to create, I'm here to do something. And this is again, what the critic's job is to criticize a person and keep that shoved down. But when you pop out and you start realizing that, we can have a better world here, it starts with you. It starts with me, and we need to move this through. I see that Jodine is here, and she just got done, well, probably about a year ago now, but got done and finished the course. Her and her husband both took the course through me, and now Jodine is practicing as well, and phenomenal to see and hear what she is experiencing with clients and how they change and transform. And the idea is that in what I teach a way that you bring it out of the client rather than it's your ideas. And that's what really sticks, is when it's the client's ideas. It's the client, you elicit it from the clients. And that really makes things stick, because it's your own stuff. There's so many other ideas out there, so many ways to do things, and we're all trying to put this on, like a cloak on ourselves, and it doesn't fit and it doesn't feel good because it's somebody else's stuff. You have ideas, you have ways of doing things, you have ways of healing yourself that you don't even know. And by sitting with somebody who's been trained like this, we trained in elicitation and eliciting that from you. And you have your own way to do the healing. You have your own way of seeing it. We just put together kind of a skeleton structure so that we can move through something, but it's you that's doing it. And it's your God within that's doing the work on you. And so, yeah. Now, I guess it's time for questions. So I'll go over here to the chat screen. Oh my. Okay. I'm just going through it here and taking a look, see where there's some questions. Donna's talking about the teachings of the Eastern Masters. Yeah, it is some of the greatest books I've read too. It's a real interesting thing. That's the life, the life and teachings of the Eastern Masters, teachings of the Masters of the Far East. But it's written in the chat there. You can just take a look. Donna wrote it down. Alfred's asking if I'm going to do another interview with Teal. I have no idea. Just scanning down here, looking for questions. Suzanne's asking here that you're trying to let go, trying to teach a 11-year-old to let go of the inner critic. It is a little bit of a. I work with the God, the goddess within, and the person. First of all, the person has to be ready. They got to want to get rid of the critic. So they got to kind of understand that there's this, thing criticizing him, and that they want to get rid of it. Step one, and then there's working with the God, the goddess within to remove it, and them disassociated consciously, and allowing that to happen, right? And so that's, in a nutshell, kind of how it works. So it's a little bit intricate, but I would be happy if you wanted me to work with him or her. Yes, we can have. Alice is saying that she's got other critics as well, and we can have. But usually when we get the goddess within to assist in the process, and the goddess within you removes it, and all the tailings as well. I have a 2-session program, Crystal, for removing the inner critic. And what I like to do is remove the inner critic, and then the next session work on making sure that it's complete and gone, and then bringing up the loving inner voice and working that way. You always get good sessions with me. There's always people talk about stop, okay, I've had enough, because I just go. But yeah, I do a 2-session with that one to remove the critic. If you want to do a 4-session program, it'll be included in it, because we go through certain steps to get to discoveries, basically. Which is your discoveries. Where do you want to go? And the procedure is that one of the very first things that I do is remove the critic, because the rest of the session won't go anywhere without the critic gone, because it'll come back in and corrupt it. And that's why I work with the critic that way, is because it was corrupting my sessions prior to, and then I had to get busy and invent a way to remove that, right? So it would quit corrupting the session. Yeah. If the crystal is asking, can you help people with addiction problems? Depending on what it is. On my site, Kevin works with smoking. If that's the addiction, and I work with alcohol. I work with alcohol, drugs, whatever, right? Because it's a disconnect. We all want to feel good, and it's a disconnect from source energy. And again, what would I do? First thing I do is get rid of the critic, because a lot of times if it's drugs or alcohol, they're trying to shut up the critic. Is why they're drinking in the first place. And so drinking or doing drugs, right? So I'm not sure which addiction it is. Okay, alcohol. So alcohol, yeah, that's what it is. They're drinking to shut the voice up. And once they get happy and, all the way, then the next morning, they got the critic back again, right? Sometimes this can be something else as well. Sometimes we can have an attachment that's causing the drinking too. And it'll spin a person into guilt trips to get them to drink again, so that it can be animated in the body while the person is, in a drunk state, right? And so, a lot of times with depression, and along with it, and all of this, it's feeding. So it's creating ways to create that emotion in the being, so that it can feed off of that emotion. So what about hoarding? Yeah, well, hoarding is based in something that has happened in the past. You see, these past things that hold us from experience full-on present moment. And so hoarding is something that happened in the past that, you had a threat at some point in time that things are being taken away from, or possibly you had to go without and you're never going to go without again, or, these sorts of things. I don't know, because I haven't talked to you and elicited it specifically. But these are the trigger points, right? And so we just take a look at, and and heal that original situation, and then the hoarding goes away. All of a sudden you feel comfortable, you feel calm, you don't need to, so this all has roots to the past as well, and something experienced in the past. Yeah. Any other questions? Silence. So, again, there's this state within us that is timeless. It's peaceful. It's home. It's complete 100% love and acceptance for self. Because if we don't accept ourselves, who will? The whole world is based on not accepting. And that's how it runs. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any sort of need to buy anything or whatever if you were content completely inside. And so this state that's within us, that home, that state of home is a place that we return to. And once we return, then all of the tethers start to unravel. Once we come to this unconditional love and acceptance of self, then all of a sudden, all of the games that have been played on us start to unravel and fall away. And this is really where we need to experience to come out of this matrix that's going on. Crystal's asking, is the removal of the critic permanent? Of course, unless you really want it. And people laugh at that as, but it can never come back in the same way again, because now you've learned it's not you. So now that you've learned it's not you, and that it is something else, then it can't come back, right? Not in the way that it was, because you can look at it and you have the power then to move it out again, right? Because you know the difference. You have that frame of reference, and you can move it out again if it does come back. I have talked to a lot of people that say it's never come back, and it's just freedom. I've talked to other people that say, yeah, it comes back from time to time, but I know it's not me. And so it can't ever convince me that it's me again. And that's the biggest power of the critic. Alfred's asking, how do I practice unconditional positive regard about self and others? It starts with self. Because if you're judgmental to self, you're going to be judgmental to others. If you're judgmental to self, then you're going to externally be nasty to others. So you want to stop judging self. If anything comes up, I mean, at one point in time, I used to be very, very nasty to myself internally. And I had to stop doing that and say, it's okay, I love you. Instead, it's okay. You made a mistake, that's all right. And the worst thing I could have done was make a mistake, right? I remember one time that I was asked to come do a talk. It was the first time I ever did a talk. And there were 20 people there. And I was told I was going to do a talk. And I was fighting it like you wouldn't believe. Because I was running through all kinds of scenarios in my mind as what I was going to say, and how many thousand ways I was going to mess it up. And if you really take a look at the manifestation system, I was just manifesting mistakes. And then when the time came and I got up on stage, all of a sudden I heard inside of me my loving voice say, you see, they don't know if you made a mistake. They won't know. Because this is the first time they know this stuff. So they won't know that you made a mistake. And I just went into an absolute relief. It was just, oh, right? And it went off really well. Well, the next one I did, it went off even better. By the end of, because I had to do these talks for some time, by the end of it, I was sitting cross-legged on the stage, just talking. I was so comfortable on stage. And so that was self-loving. I mean, I had to come to that point where it flipped, and then I started to self-love. And that was before I removed the critic. So after removing the critic, then there is no internal counter going on. But, yeah. Now there's more questions. Well, I say, Suzanne's asking here, is the critic different than the ego? I see it the same thing. It's the voice of the ego, really. And there is good ego too. There's that power in you that if somebody was over there beating a kitten and you walked up and said, hey, I mean, that's a different ego than the one that we're talking about here. I mean, that's an ego that'll come up and save something, correct something, that's a different aspect. Some call that a God ego, right? But the ego that is crippling people, keeping them way down here, that I don't appreciate. And I think that and the critic is the voice of it. Okay? And so when you're getting rid of that aspect of the ego, right? You see, if you take a look at, as we grow up, the best part of us, the magical part of us, the magician, the healer, the beauty, the one that creates, all gets shoved down into a box, and we get really, really pissed about that inside. And that creates this alternate ego. I hope that answered your question, Donna. So, and also, Jacqueline, it's about surrendering to the goddess within to remove the critic, because I can't remove it consciously, and you can't remove it consciously. So, we have to both go into a state where that's possible from the greater parts of ourselves to remove it, and that's part of how to go into that state of midbrain to be able to do that. Alice is saying there's mostly women here. There are men here too, but more so. At this point, it's the feminine energies that are waking up. So within me, I'm allowing the feminine aspect to awaken in me as well, for some time. So I have the masculine side and the feminine side, and I'm fully aware of that, and I'm okay with, I'm okay with both in me, right? The masculine and feminine sides, because we're all created from a male and a female. I mean, we have both, and so, and that more resonates. I suppose that union, or that resonates more with women than it does men. I don't know. Kate's asking, how do I focus my thoughts to fully serve me? Focus is the key. Focus and lovingly allowing what you desire. Years ago, I switched something from, people were asking me, they wanted to be able to have willpower. And I said, at one point it struck me, and I said, I don't do that anymore. I says, I help you with your free will. You have free will to do what you want to do, but willpower suggests that there's an enemy within, and that you have to fight this something inside of yourself. Well, there's nothing to fight. It's just free will. And free will to connect to the thoughts that resonate, that are going to take you where you want to go. And so you have that free will to do that, Kate. You have the free will to connect to the thoughts that are taking you in the direction. It's like, talking to a cab driver and giving him 2 addresses. And he's going to sit there until you make up your mind where you want to go. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, is that there is a great freedom when you no longer give alternate thoughts that aren't taking you where you want to go, anger, frustration, or anything. You have to be loving to your own mind that is receiving these thoughts. And they're receiving thoughts. Your brain doesn't think thoughts, it receives thoughts. And as you raise your vibration, you come into a higher level of thought propellants. And raising your vibration, which is loving you, which is a feeling inside. Vibration is feeling. And so love you. And so when you have a thought that isn't where you want it to be, just go, oh well, and then focus here. And I know I went through it myself, where I was upset with myself because I had a thought that wasn't going to take me in the direction I want to go, and I got mad at it, and that's exactly what it wanted, because then I thought more thoughts like that. And so we just stop, take a deep breath, slowly exhale, and then refocus. And what do I want? And you keep repeating that like a mantra. What do I want? What do I really, really want? And and you keep focusing on that. And then that takes you. Lars is asking that a person who works with himself and eventually loses interest in drugs, alcohol, it's a natural phenomenon as you enter into this spiritual and start feeling and feeding yourself what it is you really want, to lose interest in these things. It's not forced. It's you lose interest in it, right? And because you're actually getting the good feelings that you want. Now, Lars, yes, because the other part of the question is, has this kind of person removed the critic or ego? Yes, because of course light in, too much light in, and it's going to pop out, and it's going to go away. So there's ways to do it when not so much light is in, but then after the session, light is pouring in. But as you're raising your vibration and bringing the light into yourself, the critic will pop out, because you have made your definitive choice and know that that's not you, that this other is you, and stepping into the God within from there, right? Aphrodite is asking me, what if we feel love, then we have to look at what that block is and move beyond that block. Because they're asking, what if I say I love you to myself, but I feel a wall and indifferent to those words? Yes. And so there's that little bit of work to do in the past to get beyond it, so you can come into a full expression in the present moment. Again, I don't know what that is with you specifically or what happened, but there's a wall there, and moving beyond that wall would be you would feel it again. You would start to feel it again. Yes, the external critics. Well, what happens when you raise your vibration is you change the people around you too. When you become definite in who you are, and we're not doing the, put the mask on, take it off, put it on, take it off, and you say, no, this is who I am, and if you like me, good, and if you don't, good. But I'm going to be me. And when you make that definite choice, all of a sudden, again, you start raising vibration. You love you, and you're raising vibration. And pretty soon, the people that were critics around you can't be around you. Again, you're bringing in the light. The critics have got to go, because they're seeing their own reflection. And they hate that. They don't like seeing their own reflection in the light. And so, boom, you start raising up. But you're going to change friends. You're going to change people around you. It'll just happen. Right? Just like when Lars was talking about raising vibration and feeling good and whatever, that automatically he quit alcohol, drugs, and all of these things that just raised into a higher vibration. And yes, that's how I did it too. All of a sudden I had something higher that happened. And Alice, that's what happened with me too with my friends, is that as I raised vibration, yes, they criticized the hell out of me. Told me I was, because I was thinking these things and feeling that the world needed to hear this and needed new concepts to work with so that they could come out of this trance. And, you wouldn't imagine the people that criticized me. But I stayed true to who I was, and when I stopped flipping back and forth and just said, no, this is me, like it or lump it, I went forward with that, and those people just drifted away. And they do. They can't be in that vibration. Do I believe in the law of attraction? Yes. Crystal. Very much so. Because this is the law of attraction. The law of attraction is happening in people all the time, whether they want to believe it or not. They're attracting everything in their life. That's also being called a sovereign being or a sovereign God. You're creating it all. I don't know how to pronounce this, but it's Alram. Yes. Okay. I found I was my own worst enemy and harder on myself than anyone else could ever be, but I forgave myself. Yes. What you're doing is disempowering or taking the power away from the critic, because the critic has all these tools that it can use, which is, oh, you did this here. Oh, you did that here. You're not a very good person, right? You should be ashamed of yourself and all this, and it'll just keep this stuff rolling in some people like this. And by forgiving yourself each time to come up, that works as well. But also removing the critic, just removing the critic, takes it out of the way, and then you can flow naturally back into the goddess that you are, because there's nothing stopping. It's not dividing you between that anymore, right? So as Susan says here, stop thinking about blockages and start thinking about cleansing and purifying. It's where I'm at. Yes, and there's an end to that too, because there's nothing to purify, there's nothing to cleanse. You are it. And when you shift into that consciousness that I came in here as source energy, everything that I did was source energy. Everything I experienced was source energy. There's nothing to purify. You know what I mean? Because that can sometimes, Susan, lead to people having to become cleaner and cleaner, and then they get obsessive about being cleaner, which is really, if you take a look at the bottom line of that, is that they don't feel they're clean enough yet to have that energy in them. And that's why I kind of push the aspect of the God within, because it's time. We need to be able to be that and know that we always were that there was no hardware store around when everything was built from source energy. It had to build it out of itself. So by default, you are it. And this is the one thing that they've taken away from you so that they can control you, is the fact that you're not source energy. How could you be source energy? Oh my God, you did all those things. Well, the thing of it is that was source energy doing all those things, because there was nothing else around. If we can get to that point in ourselves where we really understand its experiences, and you had those experiences, and yes, it's good to forgive. I'm not saying that. And yes, it's good to start the process of purifying, but don't let that become an addiction, because it's an addiction of unworthiness, of not stepping right into it. And I'm just saying, because I have seen some people that carry that on for a long time, right? Carry that on for a long time, and it's actually they fall into an excuse. They fall into not to step into it fully, right? Oh, I'm not quite clean enough yet. That sort of thing. And that's again the critic working on people, right? Will removing the critic help with anxiety and depression? Yes. And that was from Buta, I think it's pronounced. Maya is asking, what are some of the key points to stop blocking myself? I want to have a session, and there's always one thing or another. Your conviction. I'm having a session and nothing is going to stop me. Right? So what happened is that, what happens is that it's really a test to see if you'll come off it. Right? And so, pass the test. The test is do it. Right? And once you do it, now this is a metaphor for, I don't know, but maybe other things in your life too, where whenever you want to do what you want to do, there's always somebody pulling and something pulling you away. That tricky energy is just testing you to see your conviction of yourself and your love of self. I promise you, once you commit to it, it doesn't have to be the session, but commit to whatever and say, this is for me, right? That this will start going, holy, she's actually coming into her power. And then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, you're living a different life, really, seriously, because, I know about that one, where you come last or beyond last, and there's enough of that, right? And you stand there and you say, no, I want this, okay? And this is going to happen. When we do that, there's a conviction inside that happens. And that'll only feel good for other things as well. Alice is saying here that she's so open to others, and yes, I love myself. I seem to be open to emotional pain. Now, that's an empathic protection that I do. I help people with that to come back into your own energy with Source and Mother Earth, to cut off from that process. What happens is when empaths come in here, because empaths are so powerful in the sense they can shift emotional states, and they can shift an emotional state which then shifts reality really quickly. When you have somebody who's more visual or more auditory, they have to work up here in the visual and the auditory for a while first before it ever hits a feeling, so it's a little delayed. But with empaths coming in here and knowing that they can feel everything, a lot of times empaths don't even get to the point where they realize they can project as well. And they can project a feeling out, right, to people. And then we learn that in the course, that if you can receive that, you can also project it. So you can project a state of being to people. And somewhere, somehow, they sense it. Whether it's in the auric field, but it's an empathic thing. So being able to stop the constant input of emotional pain from the world, stop it, and then start healing from that, and then start to learn to do what I call emotional alchemy, which is being able to shift your emotional state within yourself and then learn how to project it, so that when you're working with somebody or working with a group, that you could project that state into the room and they start picking it up. And why would one do that? Because humanity has gotten to the point where they've gotten so far away from these other states, they don't even know what they are anymore. And so by being able to project an alignment state or empowered state inside. By being able to project that to people, then people feel it and then they experience it in themselves, right? There's something called mirror neurons. And the mirror neurons within the body perceive something and then have the experience inside themselves. Now, empaths are that way. They're very connected to that, right? But so are other people. When you project, then people see that, and then they have to make sense of it inside of themselves. And in making sense of it, they begin to go into it. So it's good to be able to have emotional control. I'm not talking about disconnecting from your emotions. Not at all. I'm talking about, instead of the emotions using you, you're using your emotions, and you're having dominion over your emotions. You can have this emotion in this second, and then this emotion in another second. But I get a feeling, Alice, that you're such an empath that you're picking up this stuff, and there's a procedure I take people through to help them to block that, so that they can feel their own energy. Oh, I see further on, yeah. You've talked about this too, Alice, that you walk into a room and you feel the energy. Yes. And it's called being an empath, and because you're feeling the emotional state. But being able to protect yourself from that, because why do I say protect yourself from that, is because it's also draining you. It's also the fact that you can't be in crowds for very long, otherwise you'll melt. It feels like it. It drains you. And you're picking up on a lot of people's emotions that aren't even yours. You're thinking they're your feelings, but they're not. And then you're going through all this processing emotion, and you're processing for the world. And like I say, when you come in here as a little baby and you're picked up that that you're an empath, they plug you in right away, right there. Now feel all that, because they know that you can also, if you're feeling that, then you're not going to be projecting. Okay, so we have to learn how to disconnect from that so that you can come into your own state, heal, and then project a state. Yeah, and sometimes I go on and on and on. Yeah, it's very powerful, Jojo. Yes, Alice, that's exactly what you will feel, is like you're always exposed. But you can ask Jodine, because she was a major empath as well, and how it is now for her, now that she's come through the course. Yeah, it's exactly it, Alice, is that some people are walking around with some pretty heavy, not them energy either, that's attached to them. And you can be picking up on that as well. And so with the empath protection process that I use, you're also guarded from that as well, so that doesn't happen. Yeah, because there are attachments. What's his name? Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body. Well, the pain body, after a while, can have a life of its own. Can be manifesting counter to the person, because we have created this pain body. There's so much pain in this pain body that it's basically got a life of its own. but it's still having to live through you, right? So, yeah, divorcing your pain body is a pretty good thing to do. And what you can pick up on is other people's pain bodies too, eh? So, Colonel says that you had some, every time we went to think positive, there was some feeling on my neck and chest holding me back from, yeah. Again, this can be the critic and it can be also an attachment, and I work with both of them, right? Crystal saying, what about when other people are making me feel negative? Then get away from those people. Run. Yeah, it's called buy a plane ticket. Get away from them. Right? Raise your vibration. Loving self, coming into your own, and then they'll go. That's what I meant, Alice, is that you're picking up on people's pain bodies. If it came across the other way, no, I didn't mean that. But you're picking up on the pain body. I'm thinking. You know? A lot of times when we starting to wake up, I mean, I went through a series of different, situations in my life in coming into more and more of this energy. I mean, the programming was there, and part of the programming will have people around us that are based on that programming. Okay? And as we raise our vibration from that programming and become freer than that, then what happens is we don't fit with those types of people anymore. We're loving self, and it's not congruent anymore to be with these people, because law of attraction works. So as you're vibrating here, these people all of a sudden start losing interest and going away. And so that's what happens a lot of the time, Crystal, is that, you got to get away from people that make you feel negative, right? You can sit there and argue with them till the cows come home, right? And that can be just the way they are. And so if you don't like it, then raise vibration and a way will be presented for you to move away from that energy, right? Well, the same goes, Kate, with living with that person. You have to ask yourself, is this what you signed up for? Is this why you came here? Right? A lot of times, this is tests. And I don't mean there's a school going on. It's just a test for you to see if you'll stand for yourself and say enough, or say, watch my dust, right? And walk away from the situation. Because if a person is treating you very negative, why would you, why would you allow that to you? And so what's happened is that in this influx of energy that's happening, people are becoming more aware of their own value. And otherwise you wouldn't even be asking that question. You wouldn't be asking that question if you didn't value yourself. Something's wrong there. And so it's time. It's time to visit that, take a look at that, and realize that you value yourself more than the treatment that you're getting. And, maybe it's time to, go on a vacation. Yes, Alma, the protection, or not projection, does work. I've done the same thing. I think somebody else mentioned something like that, sensing the negativity in the room. And I've went into the bathroom. I felt the energy, went into the bathroom, and then really brought my vibration up, and then walked back in, and it was like it just started changing. And that does happen. More train tickets. Yeah. That. Then that's, if you're the negative one all the time, then that's the critic, right? And there might be some things we need to work on, Crystal, with the inner child, right? Because that can happen too with the inner child. Is that very negative because she didn't get what she wanted or needed, but it's not even here with this person, it's back there sometimes, and it can be a vibration that's discordant to what we want to do, right? Well, the best thing to do, Alice, is instead of, you're saying I'm afraid sometimes emotionally walking away from negative energies because I feel as though I am abandoning them. The best thing to do is giggle, really. It's like, oh, really? Right? I'm out of here. If once we get to the point where we can actually giggle at the attempt of it, then it takes it to a different paradigm, right? It's like really freeing, right? Sylvia's asking, is there a way to shield yourself from other people's energy when you think you are a person who can sense people's feelings? Yes, and there has to be a procedure done too, where I discovered that there was this plug-in happened early on, and then it keeps empaths drained nicely, because and so once that's unplugged, then you can put the shielding up, and that shielding helps tremendously. Then you don't feel it, and it's like you feeling source energy and Mother Earth in the ongoingness of creation, which is a different feeling for empaths to be connected to, instead of the pain of the world or the pain of this person or that person. It's like you see it from a higher perspective. It's their journey, and you can have empathy. You can, do what you need to do to assist if you're in the vicinity of them, right? So it's kind of like what we talked about before, Sylvia, is that, yeah, we need to do that for empaths everywhere. I'm not sure who you were giggling at. Alice. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to this. You get to have the reality you desire. What reality do you want? And anything that's counter to that reality that you want is simply just testing your commitment to stay with what you want. And so when you decide, no, that's what I want, I'm going there, and you can giggle at these things, it doesn't matter if somebody makes fun of you, because you're laughing. You're looking at them and you're laughing. You know? I went into the grocery store one time, and I'm shining, you know, happy. And there was a guy over there in another line at the grocery store, and we just happened to catch eyes, and I smiled. And he says, "What the F are you smiling at?" And I said, "Nothing at all." And I started to laugh. And yes, it did tick him off, but then all of a sudden he started to laugh because he couldn't believe that I flipped it on him that quick, right? Nothing at all. It's all in what we carry in ourselves. Sometimes we're scared to make things funny. And that comes from, being clocked as a kid or something like that when you were trying to make things funny. But really, when you come into the joy of life, it's really quite spreading. I've made a lot of people laugh. And we laugh a lot in sessions, too. It's not all serious at all, right? It can't be. Well, we've already gone half an hour overtime. Thank you so much for your questions. And it's time to go. But like I say, come to my site. I'm also Dwaine Hartman on Facebook. Make friends with me on Facebook if you want. Come to my site. Drop me a line in the contacts. Contact me. And like I say, these links will be live once the replay happens here. And so you can just rewatch the video and click onto the website if you want to. And it's always in the description below too. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming out, and blessings to you. And we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.